Have you ever watched a world-class athlete or a musical genius and just thought to yourself, wow, they were just born with it? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. Are the greats born with some special gift, or is that incredible skill something that can be made? Let's find out. I want to start with this quote from Ray Allen, one of the best shooters in NBA history. He says it really ticked him off when people called his jump shot a gift from God. Why? Because that word, gift, it completely erases the thousands upon thousands of hours of work you put in. As he said, not some days, but every single day. This gets right to the heart of the whole debate.
So here's the big question we're tackling. Is it a gift or is it grit? Is it nature or nurture? Let's dive into the science, and we're going to start with maybe the most famous child prodigy of all time.
Right. When you think natural-born genius, you probably think of Mozart. I mean, here's a kid composing music at 7 years old, touring Europe, dazzling royalty. He really seemed like the ultimate proof that some people are just born with innate, God-given talent.
And his most magical, almost superhuman gift was said to be perfect pitch. You know, the ability to hear any sound, a bell, a cough, a bird chirping, and instantly name the exact musical note. For centuries, people pointed to this as the undeniable proof that he was just, well, built differently from the rest of us.
But then science came along and started to poke some holes in that story. Researchers noticed a couple of weird patterns. First, almost everyone who had perfect pitch started their music training really young, like between 3 and 5 years old. Second, it's way more common in people who speak tonal languages, like Mandarin, where the pitch of your voice actually changes a word's meaning. That doesn't really sound like a random genetic gift, does it?
And this leads us to a pretty stunning experiment by a psychologist named Ayako Sakakibara. And the only thing you need to remember for now is this number, 24. So, what's with the 24? Well, Sakakibara took 24 ordinary kids between 2 and 6 years old and put them through a specific training program. The result? It was an absolute game changer. Every single one of them developed perfect pitch. An ability that only 1 in 10,000 people are supposedly born with was successfully taught to 100% of the children in the study.
And this brings us to the real takeaway, summed up perfectly by the late, great researcher Anders Ericsson. He said the gift isn't perfect pitch itself. The gift is the ability to develop perfect pitch. And it seems like pretty much all of us are born with that gift. It turns out Mozart wasn't born with a magical ability. He was born with a magical brain, just like you were.
So, this is the crucial point. This capacity, this gift, it's all about our brain's hidden superpower. Its incredible, mind-blowing ability to adapt. We all have it. Most of us just don't know how to turn it on.
Now, to really get how this works, we need to talk about a fundamental biological principle called homeostasis. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. It's just the fact that your body and your brain love to be stable. They crave the comfort zone, where everything is easy and predictable. This is the force that all true practice has to fight against. And this contrast shows the two basic states you can be in. You can stay in your comfort zone. Homeostasis is happy, but your skills flatline. You stagnate. Or you can push yourself just a little bit past your current abilities. You step into the growth zone, and by doing that, you force your brain to respond, to change, to adapt. And that is where all improvement comes from. And listen, this isn't just a feel-good metaphor. Training literally, physically, rewires the brain. Studies of London taxi drivers who have to memorize a mental map of 25,000 streets show they actually grow a larger hippocampus. That's the brain's memory center. We see that expert musicians have more gray matter in the parts of the brain that control their hands and hearing. The brain is like plastic, constantly being shaped by the demands you place on it.
Okay, so we get the what. The what is brain adaptation. But the billion-dollar question is how? How do we actually make it happen? Because it's not just about repeating something over and over. It takes a very specific and often difficult method of practice.
The key, the absolute secret weapon of experts, is building something called mental representations. So what are those?
Think of them like incredibly detailed blueprints or software programs that you build in your mind through practice. They let you process enormous amounts of information in your field, completely bypassing the normal limits of memory.
Let's make this real with the classic chess example. A novice, like me, looks at a chessboard and sees, 24 individual pieces? It's just a jumble. But a grandmaster, they don't see pieces. They see patterns. They see threats. They see history. They see a queen's gambit declined with a weak c-pawn. They're reading a story that the rest of us can't even see. That's the power of a mental representation.
So how do you build these powerful mental models? Well, a landmark study of violinists in Berlin gave us a very clear, almost shockingly direct answer. They tracked students from a young age, and the results were undeniable. By age 18, the best violinists had clocked, on average, over 7,000 hours of solitary practice. The merely good ones? Less than half that. There were no naturals who just floated to the top without putting in the hours. The differentiator was the time spent in focused, deliberate practice.
And that kind of focused, high-quality work has a name: deliberate practice. This isn't just noodling around or playing for fun. It is purposeful. It is systematic. It requires all your attention, and it's always done with a specific goal of getting better.
So let's break it down. It really has 4 key ingredients. 1, you need a very specific goal. Not get better at guitar, but play the F chord cleanly 10 times in a row. 2, you need intense focus, no distractions. 3, you need feedback immediately. You have to know if you're hitting that chord correctly or not. And 4, the big one we keep coming back to, you have to be constantly pushing right up against the edge of your abilities.
Okay, so this all sounds great if you've got a world-class coach standing over your shoulder giving you that immediate feedback. But what about the rest of us? How can you possibly apply this on your own? Well, let's look at one of history's great self-improvers, Benjamin Franklin. He wanted to become a brilliant writer, but he didn't have a teacher. So what'd he do? He basically invented his own system of deliberate practice. He'd read articles he loved, jot down some notes, and then wait a few days. Then he'd try to rewrite the article in his own words from his notes. And here's the crucial part. He'd then compare his version to the original, side by side, to see where he fell short. He was his own coach, giving himself targeted feedback and then fixing his mistakes.
Franklin's method gives us a really simple framework you can use for just about anything. You can call it the 3 Fs. First, focus. Break the skill down into tiny, manageable parts. Second, feedback. Just like Franklin did, find a way to see your mistakes clearly. Record yourself. Use an app. Compare your work to an expert's. And finally, fix it. Zero in on those weaknesses and drill them until they become strengths.
And this brings us back to that famous 10,000-hour rule. The big and often missed point here is that the number itself isn't some magic password. You can put in 10,000 hours of mindless, easy practice and go nowhere. What truly matters isn't the quantity of hours, it's the quality. It's how many of those hours are spent in that focused, uncomfortable, deliberate state.
So when you put it all together, the science leads us to a conclusion that's both a little humbling and also incredibly empowering. The reason most people don't develop these extraordinary skills isn't because they lost some genetic lottery at birth. It isn't because they don't have the capacity. It's because at some point we decide we're good enough. We get comfortable. We stop pushing. We stop being deliberate. The potential for greatness, for developing a truly extraordinary skill, is dormant inside almost every one of us. So the only question left to ask is, what will you choose to become extraordinary at?